Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be my first premiere, so you have to sort of bear with me a little bit. I will give it just a few seconds just for people to join and catch up, but this is going to be in regards to a couple named Mick and Mairead Philpotts. They basically burnt their house down with their 6 children inside and trapped inside, clearly all past, but it's what the whole story behind it all. So let's get started. So this is Mick. Mick is how do you describe him? Womanizer, a bit of a Jack the Lad, I suppose we'd call him over here. In all, he has 17 children, so I think that sort of gives you an idea of what this man is like in reality. Before all of this, over a backstory on him, when he was 22 he started dating a 14-year-old girl named Kim. There is more details around her, but I'm not going to go too much into details. I'm sure she's trying to move on. It was over 30 years ago, etc. But Kim dated him from 14 to 16 years of age. During that time, Kim took quite a few beatings off him. He wrapped a pool cue around her head because she didn't want to play pool. You can just sort of imagine the other sort of things that went on with this. When she turned 16, she was living in a flat with her mum, and she decided enough was enough. You know, she realized that all her friends weren't having to deal with things like this and wasn't having to worry about walking on eggshells when their partners was around, and you know, and later on realized that he had groomed her to think this was normal. She sent him a letter saying, you know, this is it, it's over, we're done, you know, the whole Dear John stuff. Few days later he was asking for like his stuff from her house, which is normal. She takes it to him at their local pub, which is a bar. She passes it to him. He leans in and basically threatens her, saying, this isn't over, you know, you're gonna be, you know, if I can't have you, his words, if I can't have you, no fuckers having you, which is just, this piece of shit's all over. Few days later she had gone to work, she had come home, she had gone to her friends after that, come home, got in the house, had food, normal, went to bed, woke up not feeling that somebody was in her room, obviously, and he was there, put his hand over her mouth saying, if you scream, I'm gonna effing kill you. And he got a big knife in his hand, to which point he lets go of her, thinking he's scared her enough not to scream. Clearly she screams. He proceeds then to stab her 27 times, mainly in her abdomen. You know, luckily, thank God, that he didn't sort of hit any major arteries, although this woman 30 years plus on is still having to deal with issues from that stabbing. Her mum heard her, obviously come in to try and help. He proceeded then to stab the mum 16 times. Police were called. I'm not sure about over in America, but over here mostly houses are very, very close together, especially in cities, so neighbours heard the screams and all of that. Obviously you can imagine they're quite curdling screams of somebody stabbing you. He sat on what you would class as the porch steps. Ambulances arrive, police arrive. His words to the ambulance men were, don't bother, I've done a good job on her. Basically saying, don't bother going to her, she's already a goner, you know. In June of 1978, he was charged with ABH, which is actual bodily harm, and assault with a deadly weapon. Now, bearing in mind, like, what this guy has just done, you know, 27 times and then 16 times, he could have killed them. You know, this should have been attempted murder, you know, at the very minimum manslaughter, but I digress. The good old British law for you. He was sentenced to 7 years, and as I think I stated yesterday, anything below 4 years you do half of your time that you were sentenced to. Anything from 4 to 10 you do 3/4. Anything from 10 upwards, again it goes back to half, but within that half you're pretty much on license for that rest of that half that you get out of jail for. So say somebody, I will go over again this later because it does come up again, but for that 7 years he would have had to have served, you know, a good 5, and that's on good behaviour. I can't imagine, I can't really find how long he served, but I can imagine that the very minimum it's a 5-year stretch, if not longer, because I can't imagine him being very good and very well behaved. Mairead, on the other hand, didn't really have much of a background from what I could find. She led a very quote-unquote gypsy lifestyle, very family orientated, you know, lots of sisters and siblings and cousins. She did seem to go for the bad boy, quote-unquote, you know, that, and she was she was happy to be the lower class in the relationship. She wanted the man to take control, and that was the kind of person that she was, which is not necessarily a bad thing until you meet a psycho like this. Okay, so at the beginning, he comes out of jail. A few years later he meets Mairead. You know, after quite a whirlwind relationship, they decide to get married, but during this time he had already picked up a mistress. So Mairead was 22 at the time of their wedding, and his mistress was 19. Mick at this point was 46 years of age. So his mistress, his name is Lisa, she was the bridesmaid at the wedding. Bearing in mind, Mairead knew who she was, they all, you know, cohabitated together. It was just a strange one overall. So they get married, Lisa's the bridesmaid. You know, little side note on Lisa, she had a child from a previous marriage, just as Mairead did. They both had toddlers when they met Mick. So I don't know, I'm obviously guessing at this point, this isn't factual, but I'm guessing that their self-esteem was very low. I'm guessing that, you know, he maybe came across as that protector type that made them feel good, that made them feel like, you know, that they could be protected. And, you know, we all know after childbirth our self-esteem is very low. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot like that. During this time there is a 8 to 9 year span of when they got married to when this absolutely tragedy happened. During that time there was 9 children that were born between the two ladies. At some point one or both were pregnant every year. You know, that's when you put that, that's a lot of pregnancies. That's a lot in 1 year. He used to have, let me try and find the image. He used to, there we go. That's their house. So they moved into this house. The trailer you can see by the side, this here, that was his, where he slept. That was his sanctuary, as he used to call it. And every other night they would take turns on who went in and who slept with him that night. He also had other women that he would sleep with, have relations with. So in this tiny house, it's a 3-bed house. In this house there was Mick, Mairead, good God, I can't even speak now, Mairead and Lisa, along with their 11 children in a tiny 3-bed house. This is just stereotypical council house. A lot of houses are the same. It'd be 1 bathroom. Some council houses do have another bathroom downstairs. This one didn't. This one was just 1 bath, 1 toilet, 3 bedrooms, 2 being an average size, 1 being, as we call, a box bedroom. So it would be sort of enough. I had the box room growing up, so for me, my bedroom was, you could fit a single bed in there, you could fit a bedside cabinet, a wardrobe, and then you're done. Like, there's just walking room then. It's a very small bedroom. So going from there, then there was, like, within that time there was he became, I'm not going to say popular because I hate that he became popular. He got a bit of notoriety, I suppose. He was on a program here, which is, I'm going to go the same as sort of the Jerry Springer, but not so extreme. So not so many fights, not so many, but that kind of principle, showing those dregs of society. He got known at this point by, like, a skeezer. You know, he got dubbed Shameless Mick, because at this point, with how much benefits they were on each month was just astronomical. He was basically earning the same amount of money as somebody who was earning 100,000 per year, with everything that he was getting. Just in cash alone in his hand, he was getting £1,600, which is around the 2 in American dollars, so 2,200 American dollars. That's a lot of money. That means he doesn't have to pay for his house is paid for. He doesn't have to pay council tax, is paid for. You know, everything in that house apart from utilities, gas, electric, would be paid for. TV license is very cheap here, he'd have to pay for that. So he had a lot of what I class as throwaway income. Within this time, he got this, I don't know if anybody's heard of it, Anne Whitcomb. She's a bit of a say it how it is, she doesn't give a shit. She sort of did an interview with him. He got very irate with her, but she's not one to back down, for sure. She tried to get him a job. He was fine while the cameras was there. As soon as the cameras left, he backed out. But you know, he's not going to take away his money. So this lasted in the same house. The family dynamic was, again, they're 3 adults, 11 children. All in all, though, he had 17 children. Not much is known about the children he had from previous relationships. Again, I did try and find some, but there just isn't about, which I don't blame the mothers for hiding those children's identity. So about February time, 3 months before the fire and the death of these children happened, Lisa decided that she had had enough. She wanted to move. She didn't want to be involved anymore. She wanted to she just had enough. So this is Lisa. I've blacked out all the children, although I've put the other children that had passed in here. They all look very similar. These children, obviously they all got the same father, and I couldn't distinguish which was which, so I blacked out all of the children's faces. But this is Lisa up here, this is Mick, and this is Mairead. So during this time in February, Lisa had left and took her 5 children with her. She went to a woman's shelter. Within this woman's shelter, she was safe. Clearly, you know, men are not allowed in women's shelters here. It's very, very strict, and the spaces within these women's shelters are very far and few between, if I'm honest, you know. So she was very lucky to be able to get out. He obviously was not happy about this. He would be, and I genuinely don't think it was so much as I love her, I want her back, or anything like that. It was a very emotional pull. He would be losing money. He would be losing money for all those children and the extra adult in the house. So his money could have dropped easily by about £500. About $750–800 a month, which to him is, you know, it's an issue. He has these children and these girls, and he believes them to be belongings. He calls them bitches, and, you know, very much to their faces. So during this time, he tried to commit suicide. Again, he wasn't going to do it. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to try and abuse the fact that he could try and pull on Lisa's heartstrings. That didn't work. So he went to try and take her to court for the children, even though the lawyer had stated and stipulated to him, you are not going to win these children. There's no way. You have a record. For starters, Lisa doesn't. You know, there's like a 5% chance that any judge will give you any rights over these children. So this sort of goes on for a little while. Mick, at that point, Mick was like calling the police to say, Lisa's threatening me and my family, she's threatening to burn us all up, and, you know, laying the groundwork, I think, to try and get her into trouble for this fateful night. So this, on the 3 months down the line now, we're in May, evening of the 10th going on to the morning of the 11th. A man called Paul Mosley comes across. Paul Mosley is a third wheel in their relationship, I suppose is the best way to put it. He is a friend of Mick's. Mick would make his wife give him extramarital things to keep his friend happy. They decided within that time to make this big plan, and their plan was to set fire to the house, Mick run in, save all the children, and be this hero for when he goes to court the next day. He can come across as this big hero. He loves his children mean the world to him, blah blah blah, which is clearly just such a dumb thing to do. Okay, but he is dumb, so there's not much really we can do for that. I need to find the plans of, again, I'm sorry guys, I'm trying my best, but a couple of these are not the best. These are the children. I will obviously, all right, okay, we got 4 plans. Okay, so here's the floor plan of their house. Okay, so here is the front door. Now, So their front door is, like most doors here, are made of plastic. We know plastic and fire don't mix, it melts. Clearly, we all know this. Just literally sorry, within steps of the front door is a staircase. This staircase is wood, and 9 times out of 10 it's either varnished or glossed, what we call gloss. Again, both are highly flammable. Oh my god, I can't even speak. So these decided, Paul Mosley and Mick decided to set a fire just by here using gasoline. Boom, it goes up. Okay, at this point it escaped them. There was no getting up the stairs. As soon as that fire was lit, there's just under no circumstances are you getting up those stairs. To this point they are in the back garden, so sort of here's the back garden and here, so they're in the back garden, and we can only surmise at this point to what their thoughts was, what was going on, but it seemed like they were a bit in shock, like, shit, what the hell are we meant to do to get this to go from that to that? Does that make sense? So at this point they put a ladder. This is an extension bit, so they put a ladder here. This is where the children above this is where the children's room is. I'll show you that one now. So he puts a ladder, right, so to try and get up to the children within the so a ladder's here going up into the children's bedroom. He said that he was up the ladder, and she said that she got a wrench and she was holding the phone to 999, which is your 911, and handed him and climbed up this ladder, no hands, which is absolute crap. Like, I've listened to the 911 tape and there's no out of breath, there's no no climbing, no moving. You can't even hear shuffles of her moving, or do you know what I mean, anything at all, anything at all. You cannot hear the movements of anything. So the fire department was called at 3:46 a.m. on the early hours of the 11th of May to 18 Victory Road, Derby. Within 6 minutes the fireman was there. The first child to be taken out was Jade, which I will go on to in a minute. Jade was taken out. Unfortunately, Jade was already deceased at this point and put into an ambulance. The other children got brought out one by one. The last child to come out was Dwayne. Dwayne is the oldest. He's a 13-year-old lad from Mairead's previous relationship. He still had a pulse and was still breathing to a degree. They literally packed him up and rushed him straight to the local hospital. He was tubed and put on a ventilator machine. Sorry. Which he was there for 48 hours before he passed, which is just horrific. Within these 48 hours, the actions of his parents were not only shocking, bizarre to say the very, very least. They moaned that the hospital only gave them a room. They moaned that the hospital wasn't feeding them. no care for, like, you know, oh my god, that what they're doing to for the children is amazing, or, you know, nothing like that. But during this time, let me just, I want to go to the children. During this time, this is Dwayne. During this time, Dwayne was barely hanging on to life at this point, like barely hanging on to life. Other family members never left that kid's side. Like, they went to the bathroom to use the bathroom, and that was it. Like, they did not leave that child's side. Them two, on the other hand, was barely by his side. They were at the hospital. They were, as I said just previously, they were moaning that they weren't being fed by the hospital for free, and so they was deciding one night, I think it was the night after the fire, so the day before he passed, the day after the actual fire, they were deciding what food to order in. They then decided on a Chinese. They ordered this Chinese, and there was a few of their friends that was there just to try and show support. According to this one friend, and after she spoke, others did come forward and confirm this to be true. Mick decided to throw a chip, which is a large fry, at somebody, and then Mairead decided to chuck it back, and them two were having a bit of a food fight and thinking and laughing and thinking it's hilarious, to which point the friends literally sort of was off their food by this point, put their food down, so you know, we're gonna go, and didn't want to make a big scene obviously, but was like, you know, we're out, and they left. The day that Dwayne was passing, the doctors had told them, you know, there's nothing more we can do, we're going to be turning the machines off at such and such a time. So I don't know what it's like in America, but in the UK they tend to give a good few hours before they'll turn the machines off. They will give you like a good, you know, we're going to turn the machines off at that time, to give time for family, friends to come and say their goodbyes, and, you know, especially with being a child, do you know what I'm saying, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say their goodbyes. At this point then, on that day, everyone sort of is turning up and saying their goodbyes. These two are nowhere to be seen. Like, they are nowhere to be seen. They eventually turn up 40 to 45 minutes is being told before the machines was being turned off. Very dishevelled, and as somebody put it, she had sex hair, so you can just imagine apparently they were having relations in the toilets because quote unquote needs must. To this point then, obviously Dwayne was took off the machine and he passed. So there was, you know, all six of these babies were gone. Absolutely just devastating, absolutely devastating. This is after they left the hospital. That is Mairead's sister and father. You can see just how devastated they were. Now, during this time, the police and the investigator was, they knew something wasn't right. Their story wasn't right. They said it was Lisa. They'd questioned Lisa, arrested Lisa, questioned Lisa, and Lisa had, you know, a fixed alibi. There was no way that it could be Lisa. So them sort of trying to push that, oh yeah, it was Lisa, it was Lisa, it was Lisa, which is absolute horrific and no, that's just so wrong. During this time, they were staying at a Holiday Inn, Premier Inn, which is a little hotel. The police had paid for them. Obviously, their house, they weren't going back to the house, but they had bugged the room because they were hoping that they would say something to incriminate themselves. And what you remember is, over here, bugs are not used very often in the UK. You know, you need a court order and you need to have a bloody good reason to use them. They're not something that's used on an everyday case. You know, it's got to be something big, and with something that they, you know, they got to suspect of why. Well, why do they need this? Why are they using this? So at this point then, they are staying in this Holiday Inn, which they've bugged. They're not really speaking much. When they do kind of speak about it, they're doing it in a whisper, which still can be seen, and audio can be heard of what they're saying. Paul Mosley came to the Premier Inn and started talking about it. Mick told him to shut up and, you know, don't speak about it. He doesn't trust the effing pigs, and pigs are used as a derogatory word for police officers in the UK. And at this point, Mick tells Mairead to give Paul Mosley oral sex to keep him on side, keep him quiet. I have no idea what goes on in these people's heads, but that's what I'm guessing. The couple were arrested then shortly after, along with Paul Mosley. Mick and Mairead was held in custody on remand. We call it on remand if we're not allowed out. We don't have bonds, as in you have to pay monetary to be released. It's just whether the judge thinks that it's okay to be released whilst you're be on like a probation type thing. The way you'll have to go to your probation officer, you'll have to sign with your probation officer, they can do random drug tests and that kind of thing. Paul Mosley was let out and not held on remand. The parents were held on remand. Whilst you're on remand in any UK jail, it's a lot more easier. A prison sentence, you get more visits, you can wear your own clothes, and you know, it's a lot more easier as the time. The trial begins in 2013 at Nottingham Crown Court. So this is Nottingham Crown Court. The trial starts here. It lasts all in all 4.5 weeks. Within that 4.5 weeks, Mick takes the stand. He takes the stand and is on the stand for 3.5 days, legitimately talking crap and talking about his sex life, his dogging, his multiple women, his and God knows what else. You know, he just literally went on, and it stated that he never actually mentioned the children, he never mentioned the fire. It was just purely just to keep him in the spotlight, keep him talking about his sex life, because he liked talking about his sex life. As I said, the trial lasted 4.5 weeks. After the trial, they were all found guilty. This is a sketch of the trial. They were all found guilty. Mick was given a life term. As I said yesterday, life in the UK does not mean life. Life means 30 years. Okay, so 30 years is then halved, so he inevitably gets sent for 15 years. This does not mean that he will get out in 15 years. This then will be up to the parole board. So the parole board will meet and then they will say yes, no, and sometimes if people like this generally probably won't get out. What we tend to do in the UK, if we can't keep them in jail legally, they'll then say they're criminally insane and send them to Broadmoor. So it's a bit of touch and go, but he'll have to serve a minimum of 15 years minus 307 days, which he was held on remand, because that will be taken into account because he was held on remand. So in total he has to serve 14 years and 58 days in jail before he'll even be considered to be released on license, on tag or anything like this. He was held and is held in Wakefield, so HM Wakefield prison. Paul Mosley was again found guilty. Again, he was sentenced to 17 years. Again, this was halved. By law, they have to halve it. So it was 8.5 years. Then there will be no parole or anything like that. He will be released after 8.5 years on license. That license will last the rest of the time of his sentence. So if he gets caught, say, fighting in a bar, he will get sent back to jail and he'll have to serve the rest of the 8.5 years. You know, whether he will or not, only time will tell, you know, but this is 2012, you know, they're going to be due out soon, if not they're already. Do you know what I mean? As for Mairead, she was sentenced also to 17 years, again was halved. She was sent to Bronxfield, Surrey. It was a maximum Cat A facility. Changed her name to Louise Dunn, and in the process of divorcing Mick. She was then recently moved to a place called Downview, which is an older jail, so they haven't got the facilities like the newer jails have got, like Bronxfield has got in Surrey. This was what she'd said with the move from Bronxfield. She has been serving her 17-year sentence in a top security Bronxfield prison, Surrey, but was left in tears this week when she was moved to nearby Downsbury. The killer complained she had lost her private TV, shower and phone, and fears her new cellmate will beat her up when she discovers who she is. But a source said nobody is going to shed any tears for Mairead. She enjoyed her perks of being in a high security wing in Bronxfield, but she won't get the same treatment in Downsview. Kid killers are the lowest of the low in prison, which is very, very true. You know, in the prison, it isn't. It's just no. You don't. They get sugared hot water. I don't know whether you know what that is. Basically, they'll get boiling water, and I mean a lot of sugar in it, stir it all up so it's like boiling lava, and they'll throw it at the nonces. So, you know, nonces don't go well in prison. So that's kind of where it ends right now. They're both still in jail. I do want to sort of still go over the children though, like And no. So we've got Dwayne passed away at the age of 13 from a fire. Jesse, how cute that face is, age 6. Jack, aged 8. John, age 9. Jaden, age 5. Look at that cheeky little grin. Oh my god, he's so cute. And then we got Jade, age 10. It's just a tragedy for these babies that had passed at the hands of their own parents. I can't even begin to imagine how the other family members are even dealing with this. Do I believe they meant to kill their children? No, I don't. I genuinely don't. I genuinely believe it was an accident. But also saying that, how dumb do you have to be to start a fire right by a plastic door and a friggin' wooden staircase with lighter fluid? Like, are you dumb? Clearly you're dumb. But that's gonna, I'm sort of gonna end that here. But I do just want to sort of, you know, just remember, let's try and like not forget the children that passed during all this time. And I appreciate everyone joining me, and I will be back later. Thank you guys.